let's take a look at some other reactions from outside of France with France 24's Nick Spicer, who joins us from Berlin. Nick, the Franco-German couple is known as the motor of Europe. Traditionally, Berlin is the first stop for the newly elected French president. Tell us a bit more about what kind of reaction there's been from Germany so far, from leaders and politicians there.
Well, there won't be much reaction until the second round, of course, but I think it's safe to say that there's a sigh of relief that Emmanuel Macron is in the second round and will be competing against Marine Le Pen. He's really been a leader who didn't really get a lot of answer out of Berlin for the first part of his 5 years in office. And then the coronavirus struck, and there was a moment when Germany and France agreed to come together and create, you'll remember, Jeannie, that 700 billion euro fund to restart the European economy. So there was convergence there all of a sudden. Olaf Scholz was the finance minister at the time, and the invasion of Ukraine by Russia has really changed things because France has been pleading for strategic autonomy, as it's called, then later strategic sovereignty, massaging the words a bit to not ruffle the feathers of the more Atlanticist German policy establishment. And then Olaf Scholz, the chancellor, decided to completely do away with basically 70 years of German foreign policy and to remilitarize, to spend 100 billion euros to reach that 2% spending target for NATO, basically saying that Germany needed to become a military player once again, which is what France had been calling for. So a project for France and Germany to work on, even though there are divergences on energy policy, nuclear, and so on. I think that, let's say, Emmanuel Macron should be reelected in 2 weeks' time, there will be, a sigh of relief at the chancellery here.
Nick, tonight more than 1 in 3 French voters went with the far right. How is the rise of the far right here in France being seen in Germany?
Look, Germans don't like seeing the far right rise anywhere in the world because of their past. I think, however, there's a lot of understanding that French, almost a bit of an eye roll. The electorate there is prone to having sort of protest vote to, basically elect a king to better behead him. This is just sort of the French revolutionary heritage. And let's keep in mind that there's a far-right party represented in the German Bundestag, so nobody wants to be given lessons here, a far-left party as well. Obviously, I think most Germans would rather see somebody who is not from the far-right running against the current French president, but that isn't the case. I think many people will be heartened by the slight lead, 5 points or so, that Emmanuel Macron has over Marine Le Pen. But I think that most Germans would be probably rooting for Emmanuel Macron were you to ask them who they would vote for in the French presidential election if they could.
All right, Nick, thanks for that. Nick Spicer reporting live for us.